Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at the K400 Plus from Logitech. So the Logitech K400 Plus is basically a fairly small all-in-one keyboard solution. So you got your trackpad on the right side here, and you got your keyboard on the left. Now we're going to go over the layout really quick, and then we're going to get into the pros and cons. So as far as the layout's concerned, you can see up in the top left, one of my favorite features here is you have this button right up here, which basically clicks the mouse. So what this lets you do is basically use the trackpad with your right hand and click with your left, so you don't have to constantly move your hand down to the buttons, which is actually really convenient once you start using it, just moving it around. It's much like using a mouse. It's really convenient. It makes using the trackpad a whole lot easier. Now, above the trackpad here, you see you have your media controls. Now, this is one of the only differences between the K400 and the K400 Plus is they moved these from above the keyboard over to above the trackpad. So you basically have a mute button, you have a volume down and a volume up, and of course below you have your two clicking keys for the mouse/trackpad functions you would normally get. Now, like with most trackpads, you do have a variety of multi-touch functions with this for scrolling and zooming and different things like that that you can get used to using. When you first plug this into your computer, you will get a prompt to download the software for it, where you can configure certain things about it, and it'll also teach you about the multi-touch functions. Aside from that, it's a fairly basic keyboard. As you can see, some things have been compressed to fit, such as the arrow keys, which is a little unfortunate, but they do work, and you're not going to use them a whole lot for what you need the keyboard for. Now, the one other thing is you do have some buttons up at the top here. You have a back, a home, you have some various other buttons. A lot of these are configurable. You have some media controls there for music playback. A lot of those you can switch around in the settings as to what they do. If you're not quite happy with what they do, you can switch it. Most of them have like two options you can pick between. So then if we flip the keyboard around, as you can see, you do have a couple of little rubber feet here for placing it on a surface so it doesn't slide around too much. And then you have this little door in the back here that opens up, reveals your batteries. It does take two AA batteries. And then you see under the cover here you have your unified receiver, so that just slides right out and you can plug it into your computer. Now, being that it is a unified receiver, if you already have a Logitech unified receiver plugged into your computer, this will just hook right up with it, and if you happen to buy other products in the future, it will also connect with those. By the way, across the top here is where you'll find your power button. So you can see there are no lights, which kind of sucks in the dark, but you do have a little green label and a red label underneath there, so you can kind of see when it's on and off. So now, getting into the pros and cons here, I really only have two cons, and that is, one, the cheap feeling. Now, I kind of have mixed feelings about this. You can see it is fairly flimsy. It's just plastic. It does bend a lot. It feels fairly rigid when you're holding it, but it's definitely not the most solid thing in the world. Now, I have conflicting feelings about that, because on one hand I really like my products to feel solid and feel expensive even if they're not, but at the same time this is something that I have in my bed a lot. I end up rolling over onto it when I fall asleep because I'm using it as a media keyboard, just like most people will. So it's going to get tossed around, it's going to get banged up. It's kind of nice that it's plastic and can take the abuse. The only other thing is you don't have dedicated media controls, so it'd be kind of nice if they had some media controls up across the top here, so you don't have to go to these little ones in the function bar here just to play and pause your music. Now, getting into the pros, one of my first pros here is just how cheap this keyboard is. Now, on Amazon right now, you can get it for $22, which is phenomenal for a keyboard in general, but definitely one that's this useful. Now, I paid about $25 from Best Buy, but that was quite the sale. Back when I bought it, it was retailing for around $40, which was fairly expensive, but I mean, it was a brand new product. So now that it's been out for a little while, it's dropped in price. It's actually cheaper most places than the K400, the previous model, so I really don't see any reason to go for that, but the price is definitely a plus. My second pro, and possibly one of the biggest, is this button up in the top. Now, I know I mentioned it before, but it is really, really nice to be able to have that when you're using the trackpad. It makes using a trackpad that much easier. It's really convenient. You can just hold it basically like a controller, like this, and use your right hand over here and your left hand over here, and it makes clicking so much easier. So now the same token, these volume buttons up here are very convenient. Now I know I complained there weren't dedicated media controls, but I feel the volume's even more important because a lot of times when you're watching a movie, sometimes something really loud will come on or some soft dialogue will come on and you can't hear it, so you end up adjusting the volume very regularly. And these buttons are very easy to find. So on to the last two pros here. The battery life is phenomenal. Now it does only take 2 AA's and this battery lasts forever. Now I've had this keyboard for about a year now and I have never had to replace the batteries. Now I don't use it all of that often, but I've used it off and on for a long time now and I really haven't had any trouble. And that includes leaving it on accidentally for days at a stretch sometimes. It's really quite nice. You definitely don't have to worry about the battery life a whole lot unless you use it like religiously. Now my last pro here is this unified receiver. Now if you're familiar with Logitech products, you'll probably have seen this before, but it's really nice everything that uses this because you can just have one receiver plugged in your computer for your keyboard, your mouse. Say you use Logitech keyboards and mice already, you could plug this in and you don't even have to worry about it. It already connects to what your keyboard and mouse are already connected to. And if you buy other products, that's very convenient too because you can just have them all unified to this one little tiny receiver. In fact, I can plug this into my computer and shut the door in front of it because it's so small. And there's a nice compartment to hide it in the keyboard, so when you take it places, like to a park for no apparent reason, it's very convenient. You won't lose it. You won't have to worry about where you put it as far as being able to find it when you get back home. But anyways, that just about wraps it up. There's not a whole lot else to say about it. It's a fairly basic idea that a lot of companies have tried to perfect, and Logitech really has done it well here. They've refined their own design. They've just made it so much better than everything else I've seen. I was looking around because I have a computer hooked up to my television so I can stream movies and TV to it. And you know, a lot of people have the same problem. They're looking around for unified products like this that they can just have on their couch. And I really would recommend this one. I'd give it a 5 out of 5 stars. There's really nothing wrong with it. I know I had a couple of minor cons, but really that's with any product you find. There's a lot of these that have major issues with them that just make them almost unusable, and this one is great. I would definitely recommend you pick it up if you have any sort of use for something like this, even if your computer's just across the room and you want to be able to use it. This thing is great and at a very affordable price. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please consider liking and subscribing, as I really appreciate it. It really helps me out. I hope you all are having a wonderful holiday season, and until next week,